highly with wrestling before getting into MMA. What was the moment that really caught your interest in MMA? Why did you get into that?
I don't know. I remember, Randy Couture and I had been training partners for wrestling for a while, and we had both watched a number of the UFCs and thought that, maybe we'd be good at it, but there's some big ass guys in there that with no weight classes. Not sure. We weren't sure about that. And he had. We might have messed around with a little bit of submission, grappling stuff here and there, leading up to him putting in an application with the UFC and getting denied. And
what was the first one? Do you remember that he applied for?
It was the one that he actually fought in. Somebody got hurt. They called him up, said, "Hey," he was scheduled to go fight in Brazil instead because they denied him. And there was a heavyweight tournament and a lightweight tournament. I was going into the lightweight tournament, which was like 175 and under, and he was heavyweight. And
so you went without him.
They called him up, and he fought in the UFC like a week before, or I don't know, so real close to the same time I fought, and in a tournament he did well, and I went down. Tom Erickson took his place, and Tom Erickson won that tournament down in Brazil. He knocked out Randleman in the finals.
Oh, for that one.
Yeah, and I had beat two guys.
Yeah, was that your first?
That was my first fight, and it was a tournament, 2 fights in a night.
What was your first thought after having competed so long in wrestling in that style? What was your thought after doing the MMA? Was it like, this is fun, or this is crazy, or I want to do this a long time?
I don't know if I had too many thoughts. I was doing it for the money, and I still had my goals in wrestling. I had no goals in MMA, and honestly, there was not really any goals to be set in MMA. There was no champions anywhere. I think in the UFC, they started having belts shortly after that. They didn't have belts for a while. They had tournaments and tournament winners, but no belts. And right around that time, when a year later, when I fought in the UFC, is when they had their belts started. So when Randy started, when I started down in Brazil, they didn't have any belts in the UFC at all, and there was not really any goals to be set other than make some money, and that's what I did that night, and made a little bit of money, and was able to wrestle for another 8 months without having to worry about money.